people think that, oh, 9/11 changed the world. Incorrect. The terrorist attack of September 11th illustrated in a very brutal way the world had already operationally changed. When you measure that insight along with the fact that Saddam Hussein's consistent violation of UN resolutions that were pursuant to the ceasefire of the first Gulf War, UN Resolution 687, specifically Articles 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12, which includes support of terrorists, including Al Qaeda, albeit Saddam Hussein and his Ba'athist regime are not directly involved in the operational aspects of 9/11. Saddam Hussein very much provided organizational support to Al Qaeda and other Islamic fundamentalist terrorists. There's no doubt about that at all. And not for nothing, continued to pursue his WMD capability. I mean, the reason that Israel knew where to strike regarding the Alawite regime's clandestine nuclear reactor in 2014 was because of the intel we found in Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist headquarters after the toppling of Saddam Hussein. So as far as like again, some of the like Armin's not wrong again. Armin, you come in one hell of a weapon, man. I can't tell you how proud I am of you.
Ah,
No, I mean that. That's not meant to be flattering, right? I mean, you're coming a long way. Not to like, oh, I'm the teacher. I'm just saying, like, you're juggling all this horrible shit you got to deal with, your friends and all the stuff they're dealing with in Iran, and yet you've continually maintained at least. I mean, I no one can know anybody's personal mind. I mean, behaviorally, like a sense of humility and humanity that most people don't maintain when not put under such pressure, as well as increase your, your operational capability. I mean, it's actually quite amazing. So, in regards to what Armin was saying, oh, right, with regards to why there was instability, the majority of the instability stemmed from the fact we were delayed in the United Nations by would-be near competitors, both Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state, the Chinese Communist Party, along with other actors, including those in NATO, that all had vested interest in keeping Saddam in power to the tunes of billions of dollars from back to oil concession for the oil for food program. And that subsequently allowed Saddam's time to decentralize his Fedayeen Saddam terror troops, center of gravity in the Republican Guard and the rest to meld them into the indigenous populace and wage a protracted insurgency campaign in the immediate aftermath of the conventional military phase of Operation Iraqi Freedom, which then provided an opportunity for regional hostile exogenous actors, specifically the mullah regime, to flood in foreign fighters like Soleimani via al-Quds forces when they flooded across the border in Kirkuk and taught a lot of people like Al Qaeda in Iraq how to make bomb belts and V-bids to kill my fellow soldiers, which is in no insignificant manner why, like President Trump in his first term killed Soleimani. So what's the whole short and skinny of that? The idea that somehow we should not have removed Saddam Hussein because he was somehow a stabilizing force is absolute horseshit, pushed by both like radical leftists and non-interventionists on the right, and does not hold up even a superficial level of analytical scrutiny when you know what the substantive element of the issue is. It's total bullshit.
all right.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Let's try to go through the list so that we could have finish everybody.
This it feels like a mom and dad thing, and I don't have to be the mean mom when you're being like the good dad, you know.
I'm the dad. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, my question is not related to what we discussed previously here, but it's about the historical artifacts. Okay, I remember it must have been like 2013 or 2014 when ISIS reached Palmyra, and they went up to these 5,000 years old statues and started smashing them with sledgehammers. And a good while back, I read that in 1979, after the revolution happened, the mullahs said that time starts today, like there is nothing before, it doesn't count. And I just thought that maybe they did the same thing, like burnt books and ancient scriptures, and I just knew that there has to be so much of that in Iran. And today, and this is why I bring the question up today, I saw it was actually posted on the Discord in the news channel that they closed down a museum, maybe several museums, I don't know, at least one museum in Tehran until further notice. And people were, excuse me, people were worried that they would do this, that they would take these artifacts and either destroy them or steal them or ship them away somehow. So have they destroyed anything, or do they have them in the museums even at display? And what about like Persia police, if I'm saying that correct? I don't know where we have these Persia police more south, where we have these really awesome ancient stone carvings and stuff. What about all that? Yeah, that's what I'm
Okay, so
wondering.
it's very interesting because when you were asking me this, I wrote like no hand, I wrote Purse Police here to tell you about that. And then you mentioned it, even though I wanted to use that as a response to your question. So let me explain to everybody what the question is. So if people, to give it some context. So given that Islamists, when they are victorious, they invade somewhere or they get the government in their hand, they want to make it seem like everything has changed so much, everything is now Islamic, and everything now has to be abiding Islam, and everything before what is, you know, was wrong, right? And this, what you're describing, by the way, is the way of the prophet, right? So when the prophet came and declared his prophethood and eventually started ruling Arabia, they called the days before him Jahiliyyah, means the days of ignorance, right? And everything after it basically was like enlightenment, right? So everything before him, everything, the history of the whole world, like everything that was there before was basically ignorance, and now we're entering it. So when the ISIS comes in and declares everything to be un-Islamic, and now there's a new way, and everything before this was wrong, that's the way of the prophet. When the Islamic Republic comes into power in 1979 in Iran, and declare the way they declare everything before them to be un-Islamic, and now everything is Islamic. That's also the way of the prophet, right? So ISIS was destroying these statues because, these like ancient statues, because they considered them to be idol and gods in their opinion, and a challenge, like, pretend gods, and a challenge to Allah, and shirk basically. So they have to be smashed as un-Islamic idols. And the Islamic Republic, now, here, you're asking if the Islamic Republic did something similar. And this shows the strength of the national identity of the Iranian people. Okay? Because they tried and they couldn't. Because in the Islamic Republic, when it came to power, they wanted to bulldoze Persepolis. They wanted to bulldoze. They wanted to basically destroy the entire place and basically turn it into dust. And they couldn't, because that would be the end of them. And another similar thing is that they tried to get rid of the flag completely, right? They tried to have a flag that was like an ISIS flag, right? And somebody had to come convince them that, oh, the red is the, I don't know, Hussein, the green is Ali, I don't know, some bullshit Shia stuff. And they're like, no, we can't change it because this is actually Islamic, right? I mean, you can see now they're trying to argue that the lion and sun is even Islamic. What I'm saying is that the national symbols and history of Iran is so tied into people's identity, like collective identity, that even the Islamic Republic could not get rid of them. They, like, Khomeini tried. Khomeini was completely against patriotism or nationalism. He was even against the idea of Iran as a concept. Like, he didn't like nation states as a concept. He was wanting to have the Islamic Umma, not a nation state of Iran. Like, that was like meaningless to him. But the Iran-Iraq war quickly made the Islamic Republic realize that there is no way of mobilizing Iranians in any direction without nationalism, without patriotic symbols. So what they did is, Khomeini originally tried to get rid of everything patriotic, but once they saw that this is too powerful of a force, within ingrained within the Iranian people's DNA. I mean, like within the DNA of society, they realized that what they went on a mission to steal them as Islamic symbols one by one, right? So they tried to get rid of Nowruz, for example, they couldn't, right? That for 47 years they tried to basically get rid of Persian ancient Persian holidays and replace it with Islamic ones. They managed to add them, but they were never, like, think about this. Think about the Islamic Republic with all of its control was not able to cancel Nowruz, even though they really wanted to. So the fact that what ISIS did is something that the Islamic Republic couldn't do with our symbol. I mean, unfortunately they destroyed many areas of Persepolis. There are many items in our museums that they constantly steal and sell it to foreign, what is it called, when people smugglers, right, and sell it like illegally into the dark market. Like, I was like, what do you call the people who smuggle? Oh, smugglers. Okay. Right. So 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 they sell it in the dark market. Like, there are different officials that basically take our national treasures and historical artifact and try to make a quick buck with it. Their goal to completely come and destroy it. I mean, like many of the Shia traditions are attempts of, so you know how they're crazy, for example, Ashura, where they cut themselves and everyone is wearing black. This used to be actually something beautiful that was Persian, right? This was something Persian that was beautiful, and they turned it Shia and they made it into something like cultish, right? It was Siyavashun. It was this Siyavashun thing that was actually a very nice, beautiful ancient Persian ceremony. But a lot of the things that they do is competition with patriotic Iranian symbols, and they first try to destroy it. And if they can't destroy it, they try to claim that it's Islamic. And usually they can't destroy it. And so, for example, they try to destroy the lion and sun. After 47 years, it has come back in such a strength that they now try to claim that this is actually Ali, this is the Islamic symbol. They try to do that with so many other things, right? Does that even answer your question, or did I miss your question?
No, no, that really very interesting. Maybe something about these artifacts in the museum in Tehran. Otherwise, perfect.
Yeah, the artifacts. What I've heard is that items keep going missing. So I don't know, like, this the and they don't take proper care of them, right? Like, they once they came into, I don't know if you know this, but the first animation in history was made by Iranians. It is this thing that if that you spin it and you can see a deer running. So, like, it's an ancient artifact that is the first recorded and form of, like, animation, something that is moving, right? And, like, if they brought it on TV, and they were so careless, like, they were not wearing gloves, they were putting it, and people were like losing their minds, like, oh my god, this guy's gonna drop it, like, what the f are you doing? And even, like, when they started selling there, for example, is in the British Museum, and the UK was lending it to the Islamic Republic to display it for a while. And when they were handing it over, you could see that the British people, they had like their gloves, white gloves, and everything in their hand, and they were so careful with it. And then when the officials for the Islamic Republic came, they just grabbed it with their bare hands, and everybody, and people were like, what the hell are they doing? But yeah, they don't have any respect for our history, and they steal from our museums and stuff like that. So, but again, it would have been a lot worse if the strength of the national identity of the Iranians was not a force to reckon with. Like, the Islamic takeover didn't. I mean, This has happened in our history so many times. Alexander came and invaded. But then eventually we Persianized our invaders. Okay, the Mongols, the Arabs came and they invaded. Eventually, the Persian culture dominated. Like, they invaded with their armies, but eventually the Persian culture came back on top, and we were not Arabized. The Mongols came, they invaded, they took over Iran, but we were not. Eventually, the Persian culture dominated and came on top. We weren't like other places where, like, the Persian identity is so strong that even when we get invaded after a couple of years, it will resurface and basically not let that culture to destroy it. For some reason, it's so tied. This culture and this identity is so tied to the land that no amount of invasions and attempts to destroy it is successful.
Okay, so just as a reminder, we've got about 30 minutes left. If you are on the list I'm about to read, please be ready with your question. We have Richard, Elad, Armin again, Eric, Shauna, and Roy with one written question for me to read. So, Richard,
Hi, thank you. Armin, I had a kind of a question for you. So this is really a propaganda counteraction question. Some of the regime propaganda directed against Crown Prince Pahlavi has been, besides the standard, autocrat nonsense, a lot of it I've noticed, especially the propaganda directed towards the Western audiences, is done from a racial perspective. They basically try to characterize the revolution and the Crown Prince's activities as Persian supremacy, trying to basically dominate the other minorities in Iran. I realize that's because, unfortunately, Western audiences have been conditioned to view all issues through a racial lens. But as far as counteracting that, besides obviously promoting the idea, very clear evidence demonstrating that the Crown Prince is not acting on behalf of the Persian plurality and is all groups in Iran.
So,
do you have any advice in terms of how to sort of counteract that propaganda?
yeah, but what evidence do they have of any form of Persian supremacy? Like, do they have any evidence?
This is the exact same propaganda they use regarding.
Richard, you're cutting in and out for me, but like, I didn't hear what you said. Do they have any evidence for these claims?
No, they have absolutely no evidence. It's the same kind of propaganda they use to convince people to support Hamas. They don't really need evidence. They just basically paint it as a racial issue, basically frame it as some kind of racial supremacy issue, and then they have probably a de facto base of people that sort of get on board with that don't need evidence.
Yeah, so Princess of Pahlavi and his team is obsessed with showing how, Kurdish representation, Azeri representation, Baluchi representation, Gilaki representation, Bakhtiyar representation, Arab representation. Like, they have gone out of their way. But Richard, I'm getting a lot of background from you, Richard, by the way. Sorry. There's like some really bad audio. Yeah. All right. So, and if you look at their plan, the transition plan, it's also very much obsessed with trying to make sure that these groups are protected. And one of Princess of Pahlavi's 4 principles are equal individual rights, under one law, right? So equal individual rights for all Iranian citizens. So they don't just, the only counter to that I could give is there's not a single thing these people could point to that demonstrates that. Not a single. In fact, we have so much to show the opposite. And also, I don't even know what the Persian ethnicity is, to be honest. I don't think it even exists. Like, we have Persian culture, we have Persian language. When it comes to ethnicities, we have Kurds, we have Azeris, we have Baluchis, and we have people who are not those. But we don't have like a Qom Fars. Okay, only we don't have a Persian ethnicity, dude. Like, Iranians in this chat, we just have people who are not. We just have people who don't belong in any of these categories. We speak Persian, and the Persian culture is enjoyed by all of us, including the Kurds and Azeris and Gilakis and everybody else. But there is no ethnicity of Persians anymore, I think. Persian culture is something that belongs to all Iranians. I don't see any group of people come and say, like, we are Qom Pars, like, as an ethnic groups, like, identify as an ethnic group of Persians, like Qom Pars. People who celebrate Persian culture and language and identity, they consider themselves just Iranian, not like an ethnicity. So I don't even know what they're referring to. The only time I see people referring to the Persian ethnicity rather than the Persian language or culture are Marxist or separatist ethnic groups that are trying to say like, oh, Persian fascists, like, oh my god, the Persian fascists. They say, it's very similar to like in the West where progressive leftist progressives say like, oh, white people are fascists, right? Marxist or separatist people who say, oh, Persian fascists, all Persian people are fascists. And honestly, nobody takes them seriously. Our ethnic groups don't take them seriously. They're pathetic. They're very small in number. And one way actually to demonstrate that these people are full of shit, by the way, Richard, if you want to respond to them, is that high number of Kurds, Azeri, Lors, Bakhtiari, Gileki, all ethnic groups of Iranians that support Princes of Pahlavi. Like there wasn't like in early January, there wasn't a single corner of Iran where people didn't come out and in millions in the streets. Like people didn't expect Tabriz to show up because they thought Tabriz is not for Pahlavi because they're like, I don't know, they have this Turkish identity. They came out in large numbers and shouted his name. People expected the Kurdish people not to come out and shout his name, and they came out in large numbers and shouted his name.